Hello, and welcome to what I think will be a pretty scuffed video. Of, well, let me back up. A year ago, more than a year ago, I put out my video on my Journey Through the Trail series, where I talked about my experience and sort of summed up my thoughts on every game from Trails in the Sky first chapter to Cold Steel 4. And I gave you guys my thoughts on the whole series on the series as a whole, my thoughts on individual games. I ranked them, I think, and gave you guys my impressions of where things are gonna go, or like expectations and some of my favorite characters, etc. And I didn't intend to do much more than that. I kind of just intended to talk about it in my Discord, on streams, etc. But people have kind of been consistently curious about what my takes were after that, after Cold Steel 4, from that video. And obviously not everyone is part of the Discord, not everyone goes to my streams, so they can't always have their questions answered. So I figured I'd do a little catch-up video. I don't know how long this will be, and honestly, I am tired, so I am not in the mood to properly edit this. So if there's something wrong with the audio balance, or if the music is a little different, or not, the audio balance is off, I don't know, I apologize for that. If I mumble, if I stumble over my words a bit, I apologize, but I just wanted to get this out there without having to put much effort into the editing part, but I still wanted to get this out there. I'm super busy at the moment, so sorry about not being able to put time into it, but I think it'll be fine. I just won't be able to edit much, or anything at all. So you're gonna have to deal with my stumbles. It's just like a stream. So basically, I put that video out. I played Trails in the Sky, first chapter, all the way to Cold Steel 4. Really enjoyed the series, really liked a lot of characters, had some problems, but overall a wholly positive experience. And since then, I've caught up. I've caught up with the series. I've played Reverie, Daybreak 1, Daybreak 2, and Beyond the Horizon. And so I have some thoughts. I have some updated thoughts. Things have shifted for me with this series in a few ways. In those 4 games, I've gained new strong favorites and some new disappointments. I got a bit of everything. So let's get into it. Cold Steel 4 was the epitome of a mixed bag. It was the epitome of a mixed bag, and, there were some incredible characters and individual elements. It gave me one of the most incredible video game antagonists of all time. It sort of solidified Reen as one of the best characters in the franchise. But it also had lots of pacing issues, and lots of bloat, and weird prioritization issues, but it also made me very emotional. It was a very mixed bag, but overall a wholly positive experience, and I really like it. I still gave it quite a good score. Then we got into Reverie, and Reverie's really interesting, and I didn't quite know what to expect. I loved the cover art. I loved sort of the early vibes of it, like in the menu screen, but I didn't know what was going on with it, only to then be introduced to such a cool route system that went between Reen, Lloyd, and the way it ties up the whole Crossbell saga, and, well, what ended up being Rufus's group. And let me just say, one thing, I'm really glad that they allowed Reen to sort of take a little bit of a backseat, not be the most important character. He's one of them, of course, but this isn't a Reen game, and I appreciate that, because as much as I love Reen, the series is more than one character, and I think having 5 games in a row that he is the star of would have been a bit much. So while he is very important, he shares the load with the other 2 and some other characters. And in particular, this story, Trails into Reverie, gave me for Reen what I had been waiting for, to sort of tie his character together holistically and give me what I wanted for him from the start, which is essentially him seeing... At the end of Cold Steel 4 for me, Reen kind of accepts the love that other people have for him, and learns and opens himself up to their perspective, and stops being so self-destructive and self-critical, and hears out his friends who want nothing more than to save him and are yelling at him to just value himself. And he does that, and he opens himself up to self-love, but the thing is, the journey wasn't finished. And so Trails into Reverie shows him firsthand the harm that he does to himself through Ishmelgareen, I believe it's called. Let me just double check what that's called. Yes, this essentially AU bad end Reen, who has suffered through all the immense, awful things that Reen tried to take on himself for the sake of other people due to not valuing himself. And Reen saw firsthand all the suffering it brought this version of himself. And here he's able to realize, I'm worthy of love. And others love me, but first and foremost, I need to love myself. And so reaching that point for him was so beautiful for me, and it was one of the best scenes in the series when he sort of fully embraced that. I think there's great stuff for Lloyd. I think there's it's really cool seeing the SSS back together again, and Kia grown up, and all of that. Exploring Crossbell properly before things went to hell. The Reverie realm, or whatever it's called, the dungeon crawling aspect gave me some of my favorite gameplay in the whole series. I love playing Reverie. It's my favorite game to play in Trails. And I really liked the Lloyd route as well. I don't have a lot to say about it, but it's just pretty much exactly what I wanted for all these characters and tying things together, and for Crossbell. Things aren't perfect. Nothing's ever perfect in a setting that is as rich as this, but things did reach a point where we can progress forward. We can progress forward, and Crossbell is, to an extent, saved. Loved seeing characters like Dieter again, who I'm one of his biggest fans in the world. But to me, the biggest, most beautiful thing was being able to see a character who I really liked already become one of the best in the series. The masterstroke of making Rufus a playable character, someone who has seen the error of his ways, who wants to atone for all of his sins, who kind of doesn't view himself as someone who can be redeemed, but tries to do everything to make up for it anyhow. And then his dynamic with Lapis, who is struggling to come to terms with her humanity and who she is, and the way they just so perfectly, symbiotically are there for one another, where she's able to encourage Rufus to find himself, and he's able to encourage her likewise. It's such a beautiful relationship and one of my favorites in the series, and it made Rufus one of my favorite characters and one of the best protagonists. Well, there's not a ton of protagonists in Trails, but he's one of my favorite characters in the whole series. He'd be top 5, 6, something like that. He's incredible stuff. The scene where he breaks through all the muck and wades through all the clones of the different forms of Lapis that aren't her, and says, "You are Lapis." Anyways, it's been like a year since I played Reverie, so I don't have huge nitty-gritty details to get into outside of broad strokes like that. But I also love the memories, the mirror shards. What are they called? Trails into Reverie, the memories, daydreams. I think they're called daydreams. Those were fantastic, and I loved how it tied up a lot of the threads with the likes of, Ash and Yuna from Cold Steel 3 and 4. It ties that up really nicely too, and what it does essentially is it feels like a pivot point for the series, where it ties up the Cold Steel saga and both classes and Reen and his students and all that, while giving you an adventure to look forward to for the future. Likewise, it does the same with Crossbell in the way I just described, and also gives Rufus and the picnic crew, and Swin and Nadia and Lapis, a direction going forward. And I love that. I really, really deeply love that. Reverie was a fantastic game, and I really don't have many complaints at all about the story. I thought it was tons of fun to play. At this moment, it's one of my favorites in the series, and it has well earned its reputation. I thought Reverie was amazing. Then we go into Trails, through Daybreak, sorry. And that game, my god, there were moments in that game where I was considering, is this my favorite in the whole series? God, it's so beautiful, and I think what it comes down to is Vaughn, obviously, as a main character, is great. The entire protagonistic crew is great. I really, really quite adore them. Agnes, Aaron, Burgard, and I gotta say, I think the game is pretty cringe with Judith at first. You know, the whole Grimcat stuff, her wearing this scantily clad outfit and, you know, blushing and the whole thing. I was kind of cringing. I'm like, man, what are they doing with this character? I don't know. But then when you actually finally get to know her, get to know who Judith is and understand her a bit more and have more interactions between her and Vaughn and the rest of the crew. I don't know how else to put it, but other than I love her. I love Judith. I think she is so endearing to me. She's so adorable and silly and fun and off the wall, and she's such a girl failure, and I just really liked her. There's this one scene where, when we're properly getting to know her, in order to try to become zen and mature, she just sticks her body underneath a waterfall, and she's just going, my god, this is freaking awful. How does anyone do this? Get me out of here. Meanwhile, to everyone else, it might look like she's being really zen and wise, and I love Judith. I was actually taken aback at how much I really, really enjoyed her. Quattra's quite good as well. Fairy's alright. Aaron I like, though some of the humor can be a bit weird with him. Rosette, I like Rosette a lot. Overall, I just really like the protagonistic cast, and I love spending time with them. But what really sells Daybreak for me is the setting. While I think Crossbell is the best setting thematically, in terms of what it represents, for a lot of reasons I talked about in my first video on the series, I think that Edith and all the places you go throughout Daybreak is the best setting and the most fun and atmospheric setting to just chill in. It's very comfy, it's very cozy. Cold Steel got that very well with the school settings and the campuses, but Daybreak, something about Edith and the music and the way they meld with the visuals, and how often Vaughn just goes around trying to do these little jobs as the rain falls down at night, and you see the NPCs, you know, someone jogging around the bridge, and you go to the cafes and you see all their routines. I spent so much time just walking around talking to people, and while that's a general Trails thing, that's not something that's crazy out of left field for Trails. It nonetheless is something that I didn't feel to this extent. I didn't really feel this for the Liberal games. I did it with Crossbell, but I did it with Crossbell primarily because of the thematics, not because I really felt Crossbell was super cozy and immersive to, you know, walk around. I really liked it, for sure. I found myself immersed, but this was on another level. Same with Cold Steel. This is on another level. I just love this setting. I love exploring it. I love everything about it, and I love the slow pacing. That's what I want a first game in the saga to do for this Calvard arc. If you're going to introduce a gradual web of interconnected characters and cast, and open up the world vastly, and really want us to be in Vaughn's shoes, do it gradually, but also have the confidence to do it gradually. Because while the pacing is slow at times in Daybreak, never once did I really feel like it was dragging. Never once was I getting impatient, or did I really skip doing my rounds every time they gave me some free time. I really love getting to know these characters and getting to know the setting and seeing certain characters that reappear, you know. The likes... Oh, and I gotta say, I love Elaine, Vaughn, and Renee. Their dynamic, those three, is one of the best things about the Daybreak series. And part of some gripes I have, actually, going forward, but we'll get there when we get there. And Roy Gramhart is a really interesting character. Agnes's father, I really like him. But we also see familiar faces like Kilika, Ren, of course, love hers and Vaughn's dynamic. Chao's okay. I don't know. He's all right. But Zin, I loved seeing Zin again, and I really like Shizuna. as a new character. Shizuna's great. And seeing Walter again is fun. Risha, she's there, you know. And I love Elroy. Oh my god, hearing Kuroda have so much fun with his role. Elroy's tons of fun. And it's a good supporting cast. And Dingo, man, I was actually really surprised, pleasantly surprised while also dooming, because it happened, that Dingo, they allowed him to die. Because I think Trails can sometimes be a bit averse to allowing their characters to die. And Dingo not only died, but his legacy lives so and echoes forward so well. The plot was great, and the final fight... Oh, sorry, I would be amiss if I didn't mention Yume. Good God, I just want Yume. Yume's the cutest thing, and she is the mascot and the heart... Not the mascot, sorry, but the heart. The, kind of like the Marlene of Seventh Heaven to Daybreak. I love Yume. But then the final fight essentially just being the game and the cast screaming for Vaughn to value himself, kind of like Reen, and him learning to do so was so beautiful. For a bunch of scattered thoughts, but needless to say, I really do love Trails Through Daybreak, and with Reverie and then Daybreak back to back, I was kind of in love. I was like, man, this is such consistent, amazing quality. Two of the best games in the series back to back for me. I was loving it. I was living. Then we got to Daybreak 2, and I am more of a fan of the game than I think a lot of people, primarily because they introduced lots of new locations that I found really fun to explore, but the novelty of exploring these areas again starts to wear thin in Daybreak 2. I found myself skipping some dialogue. I found myself not wanting to explore everything all over again when they give you a chance to roam. But it wasn't a big deal, and I really like the redo mechanic. I like how the game also shows you some alternate sides to Quatra and other elements. It shows you lots of bad sides to characters that are pretty interesting in through these alternate timelines and events, or whatever you want to call them. However, the novelty wears out very quick. It gets to the point where it's like, man, you see a character dying and you feel nothing because you know it's going to be redone, and you're going to go through the whole thing, and there's so many branching paths and different routes, and it's just like, when there's so many people dying, but no one's dying at the same time, and there's no real consequences, yeah, you take certain things away from it, you learn more about certain characters, you learn more about the plot. It's not pointless, but it does wear on the patience a little bit, and I found myself pretty, I was testing my patience. But it builds off of Dingo well. It brings him back into the story, and I was kind of fearing for the worst, that they were actually going to properly bring him back, but they didn't. It was good. It does some strange things with the plot with Lapis that honestly I haven't quite gotten my head around. I don't know. But I also really like a lot of the slice of life elements. I just love this cast, and I love the world so much that just spending time in there was a positive in and of itself, and made me like Daybreak 2 more than maybe a couple of other games in the series, even if it was near the bottom of my list, personally. I liked just being with Swin and Nadia and exploring the school, for example, with Agnes. It's lots of fun. It's such a comfy place to be. So yeah, kind of a shorter review for Daybreak 2, because it's an overall it's an okay game. But I just think it's the first game in the series I played where I was just like, I don't know how much of this is actually consequential, and I don't know how much of this is actually, like, it kind of felt a little filler-esque. Not to say everything was filler, but it did feel like elements of this I could have not paid as much attention to, and I would have been okay going forward. Even though I did pay attention to it. It just got kind of monotonous, the structure of it, the novelty wore out quick, and I don't know, it's the first game in the series that felt to me like there was an obligation to make a game, and to make it longer, and I don't know if that was really the case, but that's what it felt like to me, and it felt quite padded out through its structure. Shit was just happening, and I was just like, okay, alright. It didn't need to be as long as it was. I'm not convinced that it necessarily even needed to be much more than 15, 20 hours, considering what happens within it. There's a lot of bloat, and a lot of that is optional, but a decent amount of it isn't, so some pacing issues, some structural issues, and a wearing of the novelty, and it's one of my least favorite games in the series. I feel like most people who play it can sort of understand that, but at the same time, I really like a lot of things about it. I like seeing other sides of these characters. I like seeing, I like immersing in these new parts of the region, new towns, and the sort of villa area was great. There's one chapter, I think the intermission, which is tons of fun. So there's lots of great. It has great stuff for Quattro too, and oh, I forgot to mention, it gives a great apex and crescendo to Ren's character arc and her coming to terms with her trauma. So there's genuine greatness here for sure. It just doesn't really know. I feel like Daybreak 2 gets carried away with itself a little bit, and the overall package just isn't quite up to, regular Trail standard. So it's one of the less good games in the series. Then we get to Trails Beyond the Horizon, and it's a weird one to talk about, because to me this is the epitome of a mixed bag. I feel very similar to this one as I did to Cold Steel 4, but with a little less payoff, and a little fewer positives, I guess you could say. This is the most excited I think I've been for a Trails game, so not being wowed by it made me quite disappointed, and it's still a good game. There are lots of positives, which I'll mention, but I found myself being let down probably the most for this, because I was expecting it to be one of the best in the series. And it didn't end up being that for me. And it had quite a few problems, I guess, that I'll get to. Start with some things that were really exciting to me. Was seeing Kevin. You guys know me and Kevin. He's one of my favorite characters in the series. At this point, I think he's my favorite character in the series. I think at this point, I think he has to be. So it was great to see him, and to put him together with another of my favorite characters in Rufus, and have them with the picnic crew, that was just so wonderful. I was so excited. And basically any time I spent with them was a joy. I really enjoyed it, and I found myself just kind of wishing there was more of them, because there's 3 routes in this, and it does the Reverie thing, but I think it's a little skewed in terms of how it's weighed, because we have the Daybreak crew, Vaughn's crew. We have Reen, who comes back, and well, I'll talk about him in a second, and then we have the Kevin and Rufus, and Swin and Nadia and Lapis. And I could have done with more of them and Reen, because I think pretty significantly weighted the core of the experience is the Daybreak crew, which makes sense. But if you're going to do routes, I don't know, I would have liked to balance a bit more, primarily because the Daybreak crew's story and plot was the most boring to me. And I don't like saying that, and I don't say that lightly. I don't just say things are boring all the time. You guys know me, I don't usually say that, but it did verge on boring, and I think the problem is the pacing of this game really drags, because I think they try to do the Daybreak 1 thing again. It reintroduces so many characters. I'm like 15-20 hours into this, and I'm still being reintroduced and caught up with all these characters, and it's like, I would have liked a bit more efficiency and tight pacing, because I know this. It's not the fact that I need fast pacing, but I do like the writing to be substantial, and there was too much thinness. There's too much of reintroducing concepts, reintroducing characters, redundant, empty text a lot of the time, and just things that didn't need to be said that are constantly being said over and over and over again. The spare time of exploring Edith, I love Edith, but man, I don't want to explore it this much every single game. I loved it for Daybreak, but the novelty had worn off. I know this place now. Of course, I'll take some time to explore it, but I feel like the game is so in love with its setting, as it should be, but was a bit too overconfident in the idea that players will just eat up spending any time here, because I didn't. I need there to be lots of thought behind the pacing and structure of the game, and I just don't think there was all the time. I found myself skipping out on some NPC dialogue eventually. I found myself wanting to progress into other elements of the plot, and I think part of the problem with this as well is that the dialogue in this game really started grating me. I didn't really like the localization. I think a lot of characters speak quite similarly. There are so many times in the game where I don't have the exact phrasing, but so many times you have characters who will say something off the wall or funny or whatever, and a character will go, haha, anyways, moving right along, and then they'll then talk about what happens, what the next topic is. And you will have every character saying that. Something funny happens? Huh. Well, back on topic, they will do that transitioning thing so many times, and all these different characters will say it. And I know you could hear me saying this, and it's like, that's not a big deal. You know, characters, but that's just one example of many turns of phrases that I found similar across all sorts of characters. And I really felt like the localization was lacking in flavor. I felt like it was lacking in some, not all the time, like some characters like Aaron have a very distinct identity. The VTuber who talked in modern urban slang, obviously is her own character, but far too often to me, Quattro was sounding like Agnes. You know what I mean? Rosette was sounding like Paulette or something. Like, all these characters with at least a somewhat similar demeanor sounded too similar to me, which kind of diluted the identity of the personalities throughout the story. Now, of course, like I said, not all the time. Judith is her own character, but like when Burgard is using the same turn of phrase that like Kevin uses sometimes, like it just, I think the game deserved a bit more flavor and spice in the localization to make the character personalities feel more spicy and flavorful and to make them pop better. I don't know if anyone else felt that way. Maybe that's a nitpick, but it definitely wore on me throughout the story. And when you hear these little turns of phrases that are very minor over and over again start to build up, it wears on you. And fresher, tighter, more popping dialogue that I heard in other games that I was playing at the same time. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 I was playing at the same time, and some of the dialogue in that game, I was like, wow, all these different dialects and the efficiency in the dialogue. I don't need to see like all these walls of text to get to a simple point. It was refreshing because I unfortunately think that Trails Beyond the Horizon is where Trails dialogue started to lose me a little bit. I don't think it's particularly super poetic a lot of the time. I don't think it's really clever. I don't think it's tight or substantial. I think it sometimes just takes too much time to get to a certain point. I think it's a bit too samey. I think it's a bit too monotonously structured from character to character. And I get that the localization is it's a rigorous process for these huge games, but that doesn't mean that they're beyond criticism. So hopefully I've phrased that properly. And then another thing with the localization, last little thing is, and this is partly a problem that I have with the plot and a problem I have with the localization, is that there are so many secrets in this game. The whole plot is a conspiracy about what's going on with this rocket launch and the purpose of it, and all that. And uncovering that mystery is a big part of the purpose of the story. And because of that, there's lots of cloak and dagger, there's lots of political talk, and there's lots of, ooh, I can't let you guys know about that. And like, I get it, it's realistic, but there are so many characters. I'm starting to feel like the cast is becoming a bit too heavy for the games if they're gonna bog the games down with so many characters, because you're at this party with Vaughn, and you talk with Kevin, and, you know, it's great to talk to Kevin, but then ultimately they start talking about these secrets, these government secrets that we can't know about. Oh, sorry, I can't talk about that just yet. That's classified information. And Vaughn goes, fair enough. We'll link up maybe down the line when we can talk about it. Okay, nice. Then you talk to Reen, and it's great. Vaughn talking with Reen, stuff of my dreams, and they talk, and it's awesome, and that dialogue's great. But then it goes to, sorry, I can't really talk about that stuff. That's classified info too. Maybe you know what I'm thinking. Maybe we are thinking the same thing, but I can't really tell you about that. And then you go to, I don't know, you go to Burgard, and Burgard's got ideas about what the church is doing, but he doesn't tell anyone about a lot of the things he's thinking in Vaughn's crew. He kind of just wondering what Kevin's doing and keeping it to himself so that the dialogue and the narrative can often go to Burgard, and he can go, ooh, I thought so. Oh, this is what I feared. Then why didn't you say something earlier? Sorry. Like, there is too much talking around topics in this game. There's not enough believable dialogue for characters who know a lot of things. And I know, they don't have to expose everything all the time. People gotta be really tactical. But, like, there is so much talking around the plot without the plot actually progressing, so that when you finally get there, it's this huge build-up for it. But I think too many characters know too many things. There's too many information networks out there. There are too many experts on everything. You go to a random NPC in the restaurant. I forget her name, but the Eastern restaurant, and she's got an information network, and Vaughn's got an information network, Bermonti, and Crow's been doing all this stuff, and he has a network, and Rian has these secrets, and Kevin, and Burgard wonders what's going on with Kevin, and then there's a conspiracy with Renee. There's so many secrets and mysteries, and I'm just like, I could do with less of that. I could do with less talking around these mysteries, because then, if there's too much of something, it dilutes it. The impact of Renee keeping secrets was a little bit diluted because everyone's keeping secrets. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, I feel very passionately about this because I think the skeleton and bones of this game are fantastic, but it's the little minutia and the pacing and how I felt like the character work was thin. That's another thing. There isn't a lot of character work. There's a lot of talking around character work and alluding to maybe how Kevin will get a big character payoff in the next game. But not a lot happens. Don't get me wrong, the interactions we had are great. I love Kevin getting to know and bouncing off Swin and Nadia, and I love a lot of the social links. I forget what they're called. The chats that you have between characters. I looked up all of them because they're all amazing, and I just wish there was more of that. I wish the Vaughn Elaine talk where she essentially pours her heart out to him. I wish that was in the main story, but nonetheless, I don't want to complain about that because that's fantastic stuff. It's so good. The little bits of Renee that we don't get to see, all that's so great. I just wish some of that was more present in the main story instead of maybe doing 4 SPGs. Cut down a bit on that. Cut down a bit on the information network gathering and probing and, all that stuff, and dive a bit more into the character work because that's kind of the heart of Trails to me, is diving into the psychologies of Randy and Lloyd and Reen and Estelle and Ren and Vaughn and Kevin and Rufus, and that's some of my favorite stuff in the whole series. And seeing these characters and the thematics and how they bounce off one another. But the problem is, I think the story is focusing a bit too much on the minutiae. And just one more bit of complaining is the Grim Garden. I'm just sick of it, man. I don't want to do these dungeon crawler segments anymore. I don't want to do them. I know not all of it's necessary, but it essentially says to get more story material, do the Grim Garden, and a decent amount of it's forced on you. It's not fun for me. I'm not down for these segments where everyone goes into an alternate dimension and dungeon crawls. I'm ready for the game series to do something else. It was awesome in Reverie. But then we did it again and again and again, and I'm sick of it, man. I don't want to do it anymore. It was boring. I would just do it on turbo mode and watch a stream or watch a video because I just cannot be bothered to really... my eyes glaze over with it. The game lost me at these points. Having said that, there are some great things here. Like I just said, the chats between the characters, I don't remember what they're called, but basically the social links between the characters are so incredibly good. Like, every single one's amazing. There's some really interesting character stuff for Vaughn, Elaine, and Renee that is so good. And do they trust him, or can they trust him? Is it the Renee we knew? What is he doing, and what are his true motives, and how he's actually trying to help on Yes and her sacrifice, and he's not forcing her into it. The way he sort of double crosses Graham Hart, who is a great character, really loved his character and really loved the bit we saw of him and his wife and how this constant cycle of sacrifices through the ages, it's horrific stuff, and man, was it emotional. And how on Yes feels destined to carry forth that curse, and how we want to prevent her from going through with it. And all that stuff's great. It's really good. The Rufus and Kevin interactions, I wanted so much more of that because it was so good, but what we had was amazing. And I really like Reen and Crow together again with Altina back, and something I love about Reen is he's so self-assured. You can tell that Reen has gone through so much and has learned to love himself, and, the journey is everlasting. It's never done. But what we got from Reen, man, he has learned to properly value himself. He's more confident. He's having a beer with Crow. It's great. It's great stuff. It's great stuff. And I loved the role that Shizuna had in this game. I thought she was great. Her fight with Rin was so hype. One of my favorite things in the game was the fight with Shizuna versus Rin, and the scenes there. The visuals are incredible with that sort of stuff. And the ending, my god, the last act of this game, it's fantastic, it's riveting, it's high concept and abstract and out there, because basically what this game is telling me is that, like, there is this world-spanning conspiracy that is being covered up about the idea that there are resets. These characters are essentially tools on a chessboard that keep getting reset once we get close enough to technological advancement where it gets dangerous, kind of in a Gurren Lagann way, and it gets reset, and they're trying to break free of that. And Agnes's family consistently sacrifice themselves in order to forestall that, to allow the ones they care about to keep living, right? But that's cruel, and it shouldn't be that way, and Graham Hart's job is to, no matter what, break through that. That stuff's so good, and it's very meta. Think of that in connection with video games in general, and storytelling in general, and these characters living a life of their own. It's a fantastic, and Agnes's sacrifice, and the fact that she seems to disappear from existence. I don't know exactly the mechanisms of that, because no one disappeared from existence, they just died prior to that, so I don't know exactly, but it's great. All this stuff is fantastic, which is why the thinness, the inefficiency, the poor prioritization, the lack of compelling material, and the things that drag down the experience, some of the dialogue, the localization, the gameplay elements that I don't really enjoy, the lack of balancing the prioritization is disappointing, because, man, René's so good. René's one of the best characters in Calvard, and I can't wait to see where he goes, and I think the series will be better served to really cut the fat a little bit and focus on the priorities a little bit more, and recalibrate, and, you know, let certain staples, get rid of them for a little bit. Reinvent, you know? The connection events is what they're called. They were so good. And another thing is, like, this happens throughout Trail sometimes, but sometimes there's little bits of dialogue that, I don't know, it's just a little strange in moments. So there's the whole Agnes confessing to Vaughn thing, which I think is mostly done pretty well, but Vaughn should not be with Agnes. Vaughn and Elena are right there, and it's a great relationship, and Agnes is a child, which Vaughn literally says, there are many reasons why we can't be together, among them being, you're in school, and you work for me, and there's a power imbalance. And I was really glad that Vaughn said those things, because I didn't want that really. That would be, unfortunately, a huge scar on the Calvard arc to me and Vaughn's character if he were to enter a relationship with Agnes. So I was glad that he rejected her, and Agnes throughout all of it was good. But then they always leave it open, don't they? They always leave it open just a little bit, because in the final confrontation, in the final stuff when Agnes is sacrificing herself, Aaron just randomly goes, you're gonna like, basically says, you gotta get back at Vaughn and steal his heart and all this stuff. And I don't know, it's just mistimed, and I don't enjoy that they keep kind of hinting at the fact that this potentially romantic relationship could happen, because I don't think it should. It would make me think completely differently about Vaughn in a negative way. Yeah, anyway, there are lots of little problems here and there that kind of add up to weigh down the experience, which is too bad. Having said that, all the stuff I said was great is still great. The peaks of this game are incredible, and it's still a good game. It just, due to all these problems, which I hope I'm sorry if I talked took a lot of time talking about the negatives about this game. It's just like, I think it's important to explain where I come from. Even if you don't agree, maybe you can understand. To sort of tell you where I come from, you know? But it's a good game even still, and it makes me very excited where we ended off for the next game. As long as they learn to tighten things up and be a bit more substantial and prioritize a bit better and reinvent the wheel a little bit. But yeah, so let me show you my updated backlogged ranking list of the series. This is more or less where I'm at here. Oh, I also played Trails in the Sky, the first remake, which I didn't mention. And it was good. Honestly, I don't really think it's an improvement over the first one, which is why I put it as my least favorite game in the series. I think they could have done a bit more with environments and could have been a bit more ambitious with certain things, but it was good. I like the new animations, the new presentation, elements of the presentation. It was good. I just don't think it really needed to exist, and as a result, it's my least favorite game in the series, but that doesn't mean that it's awful or anything. I think Trails in the Sky first chapter is a bit better. Now, sorry, let me fix this camera here. Let me get rid of this chapter count. But this is my ranking. So Trails in the Sky first chapter would be last, more or less. I know people really like it. I love that it's gotten people into the series, that it's introduced a huge new a swath of fans. I've seen people get into the series because of this game, and it's a great gateway. But as someone who's a veteran of the series, I think for me it wasn't very necessary, I guess. And I think they could have done a bit more with it, if that makes sense. I guess these days if something's going to remake something, I think I want it to be a bit more abstract and bold and do its own thing. But that wasn't what they were trying to do with this. They wanted to retell the story and make it more approachable to other audiences. So anyway, it's still a decent game. It's just my least favorite of the series. Trails in the Sky first chapter is last. Cold Steel is above it, probably because of the comfiness of the setting. Me just finding the setting of Erebonia more interesting than Liberal. And maybe enjoying the overall character work a bit more. Daybreak 2 is probably next. Cold Steel 2 after that. Second chapter, I think, would be there. Good game, just not in love with it as much as most people are. I think it has quite a few hang-ups. Beyond the Horizon is pretty much directly in the middle. Huge positives, but also lots of things that held it back. Then we have the mixed bag of Cold Steel 4, but still hugely positive. Then we start getting into the games that I really like. Really enjoyed Trails from Zero. Incredibly tight, love the SSS, very focused. Crossbell is an amazing setting. One of the best soundtracks. It does so much, but doesn't overstay its welcome. It's just like Trails at its most tight and efficient and rich, and I really love that about it. But Cold Steel 3 is a step up on... It's to me a huge turning point in the series. I talked about it last video. It introduces more incredible, engaging characters and character work. It gives a evolution for Reen that I loved. Just love the cast, love the setting, the graphical overhaul. All of Cold Steel 3 is like a warm blanket. But I have Reverie slightly above it, Daybreak slightly above that, and then we have Trails in the Sky the third, and Trails to Azure, which is still just about my favorite game in the series. I still really like the Trails series. While I think, unfortunately, the last two entries I played, and 3 if you include first chapter remake, haven't blown me away, I'm still really invested in the series. I still really like it. And at least 4 or 5 of these games are favorites of mine, are favorites. And there are some all-time characters, some all-time moments. Really enjoy being in the world. I'm still a fan of the series. I think a bit of fatigue starting to wear in with the way that the games are designed and the way that they prioritize certain things. So I hope that they can refocus and evolve things and freshen things up going forward, because I truly think it can become an all-timer. It can continue to be great and become an all-timer series, as long as we realize certain things that need to be changed going forward, in my opinion. Because the next game could be unbelievable. Truly. It could be truly unbelievable. I wholeheartly believe that. Well, yeah, that's what I think at this moment. Again, sorry for being critical throughout a large amount of this, but I care deeply about this series, so when there are things that bother me, I feel the need to be expressive about it, and hopefully I've been fair nonetheless. I think I have. Let me know your thoughts if you'd like. I hope this video was something you were interested in. This is something people were interested in and wanting me to do, so I hope it satisfied that. I hope you enjoyed. Please share your thoughts on the games I've talked about. Reverie, Daybreak 1, 2, and Beyond the Horizon if you'd like. And yeah, one more thing. Judith is a shining light, as always, in Beyond the Horizon. I love her. I would give my life for her. She's the best. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I can't wait till the next game. Caught up, baby. Can't wait. Thank you guys so much. And see you next time.